Oh, welcome to Beyond the Brink, the show that explores global events that are pushing people to their limits and driving them to the brink of change. I'm your host, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Melissa.
Hi there.
Hey, good to see you. Little technical difficulties, but we're off and running.
We
So
are.
today we're going to unpack a thought-provoking post about events quietly building over the years that are now being realized by the masses. The implications could be earth-shattering, so stay tuned. Before we kick things off, let's hear from all of you awesome viewers out there. If you're tuning in on YouTube or on Rumble, show us some love with giving us a thumbs up or a rumble. And you can
Please
catch
do.
up. What's that?
I said, please do. We need
Oh,
help.
please do. Yes. And you can catch up on all of our previous episodes by visiting our website, vitabroadcastnetwork.com, or on your favorite podcast platform. Just search for us using the handle @VitaBroadcast. So let's dig into today's content. Should be very interesting.
Wow. Yes. So I was chatting with my son the other day who listens into our show a time or two. And he said, Mom, I think you should do something a little bit more conspiratorial. And I'm like, oh, I got that. That is something that I dip my toe into. And I came across this account. His name is Ariel, and he's on Twitter. He's here on Twitter Spaces. We're also streaming this live on Twitter Spaces for those of you who are on YouTube right now. He's at the handle Prolotari Tario one Prolotario1. And this gentleman has he's been posting some very interesting things for quite some time now. And what strikes me interesting is that he's not getting any notes. He's not getting dinged with notes here on X Spaces. And that is for misinformation, right? So they put those rules out
Right.
as a way to share people's thoughts and corrections if people are bringing up things that are untrue. The X universe is kind of a community note builders for fact checking. And so far, to my knowledge, none of his threads have been taken down. And so I saw one on October 26th that was quite interesting, and I thought we would talk about it and kind of break it apart.
It
Uh,
sure is interesting.
yes. So it's so the one that I looked into that I thought would be fun to break down is the title is Status of the Republic: Liberation and Justice. When you are in bankruptcy as a corporate entity, you do not have any contract rights. And I thought, okay. And then he writes his posts in a way where all throughout them he will make statements, he will ask questions, he will list names, he will list places, corporations, all these sorts of things. And so right underneath when he wrote that, he puts Buckingham Palace, the Vatican, Washington D.C., City of London, State of Israel.
Mm.
Yeah.
Those are all key places. Hey, Melissa, before you get
Yeah,
on a roll, can we give a little bit more of an intro about who Ariel at Proletario 1 is?
absolutely. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
So looking at his profile, Ariel is he's facts and conspiracy, non-pay, P-A-Y, patriot, no BNR, pro-gun life, pro-money. So it's pro-gun, pro-life, pro-money. Infotainment, my 2 cents, comedy, chess player, Simon Says, follow me. I don't know if that's our Simon Says, but in any case, I think it's interesting. He follows about 2,274 followers, or he's following 2,274 people or accounts. he's followed by 182,000 followers. So he's got a lot of people's attention. That's why I wanted to share this.
Yeah,
Because
I
it's just not
appreciate
some conspiracy guy that we pulled off that has 47 followers. He's got an audience. His account's been up since April of 2022. So I'd say he's grown very quick in a short amount of time.
And I think that he also had another account, which I think might be active still, but he didn't have the one initially, I
Right.
think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but I haven't looked at that one lately, but I know that this is the one with the one at the end is where he is posting right now. Do you mind if I share my screen just to show the folks on YouTube
Of
who we're
course.
talking
Yeah.
about? I am going to share that now.
It's interesting, the five places. Those are all sovereign lands, if you will. They're their own government within a country. I mean, it's government within a government, if you will.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So folks on YouTube, it's on X, and it's the Proletario one. And it's a very, very long thread. So we're just gonna dive in, and I'm gonna stop sharing now. We're going to just dive into it and see what we can come up with here. So as I was looking at this initially, so I get to the point after he talks about, the Buckingham Palace, the Vatican, Washington, D.C., City of London, State of Israel. His post goes on to say all of these corporate bodies filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The Act of England's 1871 was repealed. The Secondary Judiciary Act of 1869 is no longer active. The International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA. The IEEPA gives the president the power to impose economic sanctions on foreign countries and individuals in response to a national emergency.
Yep.
And so before we go to the executive orders, I wanted to understand a little bit more about what this 1870, this treaty between the United States and Great Britain actually was. And so I'm just going to read a little bit, if you don't mind, of what I found. I could share my screen, but I don't know if that's something I should do or not. So this is the treaty between the United States and Great Britain, and it was May 8th, 1871. Ratifications exchanged June 17th, 1871, proclaimed July 4th, 1871 by the President of the United States. The proclamation states, whereas a treaty between the United States of America and Her Majesty the Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland concerning the settlement of all causes of difference between the two countries was concluded and signed at Washington by the High Commissioners and, oh boy, I'm going to not say this right, plenipotentiaries, I'm sure one of you guys know how to say that right, of the respective governments on the 8th day of May last, which treaty is word for word as follows. The United States of America and Her Britannic Majesty, being desirous to provide for an amiable settlement of all causes of difference between the two countries, have for that purpose appointed their respective plenipotentiaries.
That's plenipotentiary.
I appreciate you.
Plenary powers.
Yes, thank you. That is to say, the President of the United States has appointed on the part of the United States as commissioners in a joint high commission. And how do you say that word again?
Let me see if I can not mess it up. Plenipotentiary.
Plenipotentiary. Hamilton Fish.
Yep.
Secretary of State Robert Cummings Schenck, envoy extraordinary and minister to Great Britain, Samuel Nelson, an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, Ebenezer Rockwood Hoare of Massachusetts, George Henry Williams of Oregon, and Her Britannic Majesty, on her part, has appointed as her high commissioners and plenipotentiaries, plenipotentiaries, thank you, the Right Honorable George Frederick Samuel, Earl de Grey, Earl of Ripon, Viscount Goderich, Baron Grantham, Baronet, a peer of the United Kingdom, Lord President of Her Majesty's Most Honorable Privy Council, Knight of the Most Noble Order of the Garter, etc., the Right Honorable, etc., Honorable Sir Stafford Henry Northcote, I don't know how to say that either, Baronet, and one of Her Majesty's Most Honorable Privy Council, a member of Parliament, a companion of the Most Honorable Order of the Bath, etc., Sir Edward Thornton, boy, this is a lot, Knight Commander of the Most Honorable of the Bath, Her Majesty's Envoy Extraordinaire and Minister to the United States of America, Sir John Alexander MacDonald, Knight Commander of the Most Honorable Order of the Bath, a member of Her Majesty's Privy Council for Canada, and Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Her Majesty's Dominion of Canada, and Bernard Esquire, Professor of International Law at the University of Oxford. I'm going to post a link to this in our YouTube, and I'll post it on. And actually, I should have done that while I was reading it in the space itself. When I read that, I was like, okay, what exactly does this mean with the Organic Act of 1871? It basically repealed the individual charters of the cities of Washington and Georgetown and established a new territorial government for the whole District of Columbia. And through Congress repeal of the territorial government in 1874, the legislation was the first to create a single municipal government for the federal district. Yeah. So I didn't really understand. So whenever I'm going through these posts and I'm reading things, I'm trying to understand exactly what I'm looking at here, because I wasn't really familiar with what it was. Do you have any insight, or were you familiar with this act of 1871?
Not specifically, but what I'm thinking of is when Trump made his world tour. It basically, he was ending these relationships allegedly with the tours that he took. There was a lot of fanfare about how he may have disrespected the Queen when he walked in front of her that time when he was over in Buckingham Palace. But she gave him, it's like, please walk in front of me. And that was evidently when he put the Fed under the Treasury, bankrupted the corporation of the United States, started bringing back our country to its original form under a constitution of the United States, not a corporation. And he was abolishing this particular act of 1871. We paid our deeds. He basically says, we're done. Okay, there's no more debt. This is over. That's what I understand of this.
So when I tried to look up, he goes on in his post down farther in these he asks a question to the folks, and he says something about, did you know
Evergreen Ink?
Yeah, where is that? Where it says he says that it was repealed, or it was done away with, and he said May 20th or in May of 2020. somewhere in this post, and we'll get to it. However, so as the reason I pulled up this treaty between the United States, I was trying to cross-reference the fact that that this 1871 thing was done away with. This contract was done away with. Okay. And that's where I came up and found this treaty. And what I found, and I tried to ask Ariel, but he didn't answer me. But I found a part in this contract, this agreement, where they talk about how they can cancel. And so it says this treaty shall take effect as soon as the laws required to carry them into operation shall have been passed by the Imperial Parliament of Great Britain, by the Parliament of Canada, and by the legislature of Prince Edward's Island on the one hand, and by the Congress of the United States on the other. Such assent has been given. The said articles shall remain in force for the period of 10 years from the date at which they become into operation, and further until the expiration of 2 years after either of the high contracting parties shall have given notice to the other of its wish to terminate the same, each of the high contracting parties being at liberty to give such notice to the other at the end of the said period of 10 years or at any time afterward. That, I'm just guessing, and I mean, guys, I don't know, and that's why I want people's thoughts on this, because I read a lot of stuff on the internet where they say Trump has done this and he's doing that, right, and all these things, and things have to be done according to the law and the way that these are, and you and I have talked about contracts, and there's a lot of people that talk about how the contracts are binding and all of this stuff. And when I read that little piece of that in the treaty, it made me think to, like, just real world where I work, and in dealing with contracts and having eyes on contracts and listening to the negotiation for a different contract where they had the same thing. I'm very well aware of certain contracts where they sign a memo, what do they call it? A memo of understanding, memorandum of understanding. And then they have a contract that kind of like oversees a whole bunch of different things underneath it. And one of the things that we always look for is to have that agreement, so that when somebody wants to back out of the contract, you have to give ample notice. And so I'm thinking maybe that's what, and so when he went to the Queen, tell her I'm out, right? And so then when I looked at the Buckingham Palace, the Vatican, Washington D.C., City of London, State of Israel, I watched that video by Bonfire Guy. If any of you guys are not following Bonfire Guy on YouTube and here on X, highly recommend him. He's got a fantastic overview set of videos that are just, they're mind blowing in my opinion. They have a lot of clues, much like this Ariel account. But I started thinking about it, and I'm like, Trump went to all these places, right?
Yes, he did.
And so anyway, before I get too excited when I think about it, I want to welcome everyone who's in here. Rosemary, Boomer, and John Gibson, thank you so much for coming to the show. If you want to speak, just raise your hand and we'll bring you up. If you have any questions, let us know. But Shirley, if you have something to contribute to this conversation, we would absolutely love it if you would. Yes.
Melissa, I did, while you were talking here, I pulled up Evergreen Inc. And it is under Evergreen International Aviation, and it has a history of being serving the Central Intelligence Agency in a number of operations over its history. Very interesting, isn't it? So when he talks about Evergreen Inc., we've learned about this in some of our other rabbit hole trips that we've taken, right? And have discussed in previously. So I just find this so far for what he's outlined here, that these are things that we can readily find just as we are doing right now live on this space.
Which is wild.
Yes.
So I guess we kind of touched on the 1871 Act. I highly recommend, whenever you come across the post, this is how I kind of go about things is I don't take it for face value and believe that it's absolute truth. I do try to cross-reference the things that I read. And every time I do, I mean, it could just be a little blurb. And I mean, it could be hours of reading and trying to understand. And I do want to touch a little bit on these executive orders. So if you want to talk about those, but before we get to that point, I wanted to kind of talk briefly, or just kind of state briefly, what these executive orders were bringing up, and what these are. And these are executive orders that Trump put into place. They allowed the U.S. to seize the assets of corporate entities and persons for human rights abuse and election interference. And that would include stocks, shares, trade, bank accounts, business, home, investment, companies, etc., all the assets. And then Christy, you're mentioning the Evergreen. He's saying Ariel is saying that Evergreen is a CIA owned company. And he is, because we're on YouTube, the assertion here in this, and we do not know, but he claims that it is used for human trafficking. And then there's a certain person that was in a pretty significant, powerful position that was contracted with Evergreen.
Right.
And so and then he goes on to say what's contracted with Evergreen, or who is contracted with Evergreen. And Ariel is saying that the Vatican, the US, the City of Rome, the UN Corp, the Holy See, SEE, and the UK Inc. And he says this is key. Did you want to touch on first of all, what do you have to say about all that stuff?
Well, I think it's all adding up. I mean, we've heard the so-called conspiracy stories before, but this is just another example, very well laid out. I mean, we've seen it in video form and so forth, but yeah, I'd say very interesting. I'm looking here on a Wikipedia. So go look to Wikipedia, and this was actually under Evergreen International Aviation. So when you were just referencing that this organization was used for human trafficking, and it says right in the Wikipedia itself that it did U.S. government work. Could it just possibly be that it's just not listed that it was owned by the CIA? It could be that Evergreen International Aviation Incorporated. We don't know who the exact owner is. There's a board. There's probably some private shareholders. But I think the telling piece is that their government work, the CIA front. It says, wherever there was a hot spot in the world, Evergreen's helicopters and later airplanes were never far behind. Evergreen's hardware was so inextricably linked with political intrigue, the rumors swirled that the company was owned by or a front by the CIA. Indeed, several of the company's senior executives either worked for the agency or had close ties to it. Evergreen bought assets during the 1970s that were previously linked to CIA operations. Seems like they're very cozy, including Montana's Johnson Flying Service and the CIA's Aviation Skunk Works, a Pinal Airport in Marana, Arizona, which under Evergreen did special aircraft modifications, such as building the Boeing Dreamlifters. And those are outsized 747s designed to transport a Boeing 787 composite fuselage, and servicing the NASA-operated Boeing 747 shuttle carrier aircraft, and it was used to transport the space shuttle. So it said the demise on November 8th, 2013, Evergreen International Airlines, a subsidiary of Evergreen International Aviation, announced a voicemail to their employees that all their operations would cease that year on the 29th of November, 2013. Their airplanes and helicopters had once supported, the United Nations, peacekeeping operations in 30 countries, flew insect eradication missions throughout Africa, were used for illegal drug abatement spraying in Mexico and South America. It seems like they can just be front stories to me.
Right.
But that's me. And helped build the Trans-Alaska oil pipeline and developed and serviced the offshore energy market worldwide. In 2014, June of that year, Evergreen had declared Chapter 7 bankruptcy and began a liquidation of all their assets, including its headquarters campus in McMinnville. Very interesting. So
That is
I
interesting.
do think that this is so eerily coincidental, if you will, that one said person, that is a very popular person, kind of may have been linked in some sort of way, alleged linked to human trafficking.
We're just trying to put pieces together here, people. We don't know.
We don't know. No one knows.
But the further that you dig and you start making all these connections, it's quite coincidental, all of these things that are going on. I mean, how many of you that are listening right now are just, once you see, you can't unsee, right? It's too coincidental. The things that are happening. Like I've kind of been paying attention, giving. I don't like it when I say pay. I'm giving my attention to these things for the past several years, and I'm seeing them come true. Everything that was projected to happen, or you have the Riddlers. I mean, there's various Riddlers all over the internet. Some of them are, saying the same thing. Some of them are saying other things, and you kind of have to weed through the crap to kind of come to a consensus in your mind of what do I think is true here about what's going on. But when you come across an account like this Ariel account, and you see other people getting kicked off the internet for saying certain words or whatever, and getting these community notes. And there's a lot of people that are ready to pounce on somebody for putting something out there that's wrong. Yet this account stands. Yeah. This account is putting some heavy duty stuff on. We're only like a teeny tiny bit into this post. So it's just, it's incredible. I did post, excuse me, some links to the executive orders and the treaty that I was reading from, in case any of you wanted to look at that. And for those of you on YouTube, I will put those in the link in the description box once the show's over. So now we're talking about all of these assets. He says, all of those places that we mentioned earlier, all subcontracted. Let's see. And each step of subcontracting process, the accountability of each subcontractor diminishes relative to the actual contract. And what have you got? You have Evergreen Inc., owned and operated by Evergreen LLC, which is owned and operated by Evergreen PLC, 4,500 employees, no obligation to file flight plans, hint, hint. And you have a totally unaccountable, self-interested, for-profit corporation abusing the powers of government. And then he says, and all of this as a result of the executive orders that Donald Trump put out are null and void. So, going back to Executive Order 13818, 13848, 13959, those executive orders. Shall we go into what those are before we move on with more?
I think we have to. I mean, we've got some. Those are long executive orders, and we summarize them for you just down to a few bullet points for each one. Do you want me to take the first?
I would love you. Yeah, if you would do, could you do them all?
Sure.
Would you mind? Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, be glad to. So, Executive Order 13818, it was issued by Donald Trump on December 20th, 2017. So this is how things are beginning. He just got elected, and that year a lot of work was being done. As you will recall, a lot of references were done in 2018 about what we might be experiencing right now. So let's start off with this. The order is titled Blocking the Property of Persons Involved in Serious Human Rights Abuse or Corruption. So this was the first one, going after the human trafficking trade and the players involved. The order declares a national emergency related to human rights abuses and corruption around the world. It targets perpetrators of such abuses, as well as those who facilitate or enable corruption. I can think of a number that might be a number of people that might be on that list.
A lot of people wearing boots up in here. Just saying.
Yeah. The order authorizes the blocking of property within the United States jurisdiction belongs to foreign persons determined by the Secretary of the Treasury to be engaged in human rights abuses or corruption. It also prohibits U.S. persons from engaging in transactions with blocked persons whose property has been blocked. The Secretary of State and Attorney General, in consultation with the Secretary of the Treasury, are authorized to determine which foreign persons meet the criteria for sanctions under this order. Overall, the order aims to impose consequences on those engaged in human rights abuses and corruption globally. And since it was issued, EO 818 has been used by the Trump and by the Biden administrations to impose sanctions on numerous individuals and entities. So it doesn't look as though that executive order has ever been amended in any way, but it has been extended and used by Biden.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes, it's very interesting.
I mean, yeah, it's very interesting to me.
Yeah. You have to think, was there a continuity of government in place? Perhaps. So any other thoughts on that before we go on to the next one?
No, I want to go on to the next one.
Okay. The next one is Executive Order 13848. And that's, here's a summary of that. It was signed by Donald Trump on September 2018. It is titled Imposing Certain Sanctions in the Event of Foreign Interference in a United States Election. Just kind of marinate in that for a minute.
Like there's never any interference in any election.
Let's just let that marinate. Yep. Yeah. So it declares a national emergency to deal with potential foreign interference in the United States elections, and this gives the president authority to impose sanctions. Did he impose sanctions on some other countries?
I think so.
I think that he did. Yes, he did. Just asking. It targets any foreign individual, entity, or country that the administration determines has interfered or attempted to interfere in U.S. elections. It authorizes sanctions such as blocking property, restricting access to financial institutions and transactions, and visa bans. I think there were some visa bans that that were out in the mainstream media.
Yep.
The order applies to interference with campaign infrastructure, such as cyber attacks on campaigns. It also applies to the distribution of propaganda or disinformation. The order tasks the Director of National Intelligence to assess whether any foreign interference took place after each federal election. Based on the assessment, sanctions may be imposed. It emphasizes that the interference in the U.S. elections will not be tolerated and will be met with swift and significant consequences. And from our research, let's see, there has been no revisions made to this executive order, and it has been extended, I believe, twice.
Wow.
So on to the last one referenced here in Ariel's post is Executive Order 13959. And this executive order issued by Donald Trump on November 2020. So this is before he left office, right after, I believe it was after the elections.
I think so.
It prohibits the United States persons from transacting in publicly traded securities or derivatives of certain Chinese companies that the U.S. Department of Defense has listed as having ties to the Chinese military. The order applies to companies designated by the Department of Defense under Section 1237 of the National Defense Authorization Act. As of December 2020, 31 companies were on the list. The ban took effect on January 11th, 2021 for companies already on the list. For any companies added in the future, the ban takes effect 60 days after they are added. U.S. persons must divest their holdings in these companies by the effective dates. After the effective dates, U.S. persons are prohibited from purchasing or selling public securities tied to those companies. The order aims to prevent U.S. investment from supporting the development and modernization of China's military and intelligence services. Biden did amend this executive order after taking office in January of 2021. And here are some of the key amendments that he made. He delayed the full implementation of this order until June 3rd, 2021, to allow more time for divestment and consultation. I'm just keeping my mouth shut on that one.
Yeah.
Let's just move on. Remove certain subsidies and affiliates of designated Chinese companies from the list of prohibited investments. This narrowed the scope of the ban. I wonder why he did that. He gave the Treasury Department more discretion to determine sanctions for violations of the order. Who runs the Treasury Department? Directed the Treasury Department to make recommendations to further address the threat from Chinese surveillance technology companies, and he required the Treasury Department to consult with allies and partners to protect their investors from undue risks posed by Chinese companies linked to the military.
Yeah, and it's interesting that it's specifically calling out companies linked to the military.
Yes.
So it's not just saying only, all Chinese companies, right?
Yes.
It's specifically stating companies that are linked to the Chinese military.
And we know that most of the businesses in China have a military link, especially with technology. It also called for a review of the banned company list to evaluate whether additional firms should be added. So, and I don't see, it says his amendments aim to maintain pressure on China while also mitigating unintended harm to U.S. investors and businesses. I think that's the key sentence right there. Okay, so we have a lay of the land now. And basically, this is the gist of what this post is relating to. Not just this particular executive order,
it's a
But
piece of chunk, but it's because everything is interwoven together.
yes.
And it's like when this thing goes, it's going to be a domino effect.
Well, think
It's
about
like playing Jenga and like waiting for that
yeah.
one little piece to come out, and it's like, oh, it's all going to be down on the
Think
ground.
about this statement, unintended harm to U.S. investors and businesses. Which U.S. investors and businesses? There's been a couple that has many LLCs, businesses and companies that could have been harmed by the executive order until it was amended. Might be these same actors that are under intense scrutiny right now. I don't know.
Well, this
You
is
know where I'm headed with this.
I do. And so I have some thoughts on that, and I don't know that I'm right. And I noticed Simon popped in. Hello, Simon. How are you? Thank you for
Hello.
coming. If any of you want to talk, let me know. Request to speak so it'll pop up and I can easily add you as a speaker. That would be great. It's hard for me to invite people in this Twitter space thing, X space thing. But what I was thinking is that this whole thing is so deep, right? It's been going on for so long.
It's stinky.
It's very stinky. and when we read about like all these different corporations that are owned and operated by, say, Evergreen, and then they kind of just spread their little tentacles out there and get their fingers into everything. There probably are a lot of small businesses that are in one way or another maybe attached that are not bad people, right? Not so. How do you and then the chain reaction that it causes, particularly when you think about it, being goods and services, or not goods and services, goods, trade, things that could, if they went down, it would be catastrophic, maybe, because it would cause such a big wave on all of these other smaller businesses. And so, in my opinion, I think all of this has been handled very delicately, in the background, taking the bad guys out little by little. And we might not hear about it. Things are getting consolidated or whatever. People are getting weeded out. And maybe some businesses will survive, but with whole new people behind them. And I could be completely wrong, but in my professional life and just seeing the way business is done, how long it takes to get things going in a business and getting all of that stuff out there with an unsuspecting public, it's possible that some of these companies are just going to be the guts are going to be replaced so that it doesn't harm all the people that work for them, and all of the other companies that are kind of I don't know. This is a very complicated situation.
Let me throw something out here.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was an amendment to this executive order to not have any unintended harm. But I'm thinking of Elon Musk. Okay. Tesla. We know that in China, the military, the CCP, okay, has many tentacles into any company, especially from another country, coming into their country, doing business. Do you think that Tesla was harmed in any way from this executive order when it was written initially? And so by amending the executive order, I mean, I would imagine he would have come right out on X and would have shared if he had been harmed by an executive order.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. Nothing.
Well, and that's
there
where
are many companies in China that have these connections we haven't heard a thing about. So who is really being protected here, or amend to not harm
Because I
some of
think
these
there's a
companies.
difference between the CCP and the people of China, right?
Well, the
So
People Republic of China, those are the people. Okay, you got the CCP, but the military is associated with the CCP. They are the military.
right. But I think China is doing its own version of cleaning out their country, just like we are here.
I hope that they are.
I think that they are.
I hope that they're doing it the way that we would like them to.
I
There
think
is
I think
purging
all of
going
these
on for sure.
I personally believe that all the countries are doing that simultaneously. Some have done it sooner than others, like with Saudi Arabia early on in Trump's presidency, where they strung up all of the billionaires. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but there's quite the little story of that where they strung up the billionaires and had them held up in a hotel somewhere, and they got a lot of them were in trouble, and they took their money. Um
Well, one really creepy person is no longer met his demise. So that's,
yeah. And so I think if I'm willing to look outside of the box and think that that there's more good than there is bad. And I do think that this is a worldwide effort to root out the bad guys. And you can't, one country, one president can't do that. It has to be done across the board. And so I hope that we're pleasantly surprised in the
Couldn't
future.
that be what the world tour was about?
I honestly, I really think that
I agree with you. I
think
think so too.
like people talk about is it President Xi of China, and I don't want to, this is not a China video, and a lot of people might disagree with me, but there's something about him that I mean, if you start researching a little bit into that, he's kind of done his own house cleaning. And there was some videos of some of the old guard that were just completely humiliated during a meeting.
Right.
I don't know if you saw that one. And then of course Putin, he took out all of his people at a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And then of course in the background there's all this financial stuff that's going on top of it all. So I just think a lot of us here, we're so United States centric, right? In Trump, and a lot of people are, Trump is saving the day. And I love Donald Trump. I think he is a mastermind guy. I think he's done a lot of really good things, but I also think that there's a lot of other people that they're working in concert with one another. And I pray that I'm right, because it has to be that way. It can't be just one, I mean, a lot of people are saying, if we could only get Trump back in office, all this stuff would be, better and blah, blah, blah. And it's like bullshit. No, because we just showed you how a president could be in office and do all things that we thought were moving towards the right direction. And then some other person comes in and undoes it all. And
Has he?
Up and
Has he
down.
really undone it all?
Yeah. Well, I don't really think so, but they're making us think that he has.
Well,
So,
sure.
and in the past that they have, in the past, that is how it rolls. And so unless that we really start fixing things, and just like what you do at your local level, and a lot of people, I'm hearing more and more people say, it starts at the local level, getting involved. There's more and more people getting involved in all these things. And I'm getting way off the topic now, and I apologize.
Yeah, I was going to kind of reel you back in. I was going to see maybe we can just, kind of tie this to the executive orders. He puts in a couple of
Bring
reminders.
me back, my friend.
I'm going to bring you back. I'm reeling you in right now. There you go. So he puts in a comment or two here. It says, do you remember when Jan Halper confirmed that tons of gold were removed from the Vatican? I think she said it took, I don't know, Was it 600
Yes.
planes?
And guess what? I have a clip.
Do you have that clip?
I do. Keep talking while I pull it
Okay.
up.
And then you had referred to the 1871 Corporate Act, right? Well, that was dissolved on May 4th, 2020. So at the opening of the show, when you were asking me if I knew what that meant, that's the episode, or the date that I remember was in 2020. This is when Trump did his world tour. And I believe the last stop was Israel. I believe that was the last stop. But the stop before that, 2 stops. He went to the UK, dissolved the agreement with the Queen, went to the Vatican, and the Pope had a very sad face that day.
Not a happy
and
camper.
then went to Israel.
Yes.
I think that was the end of the world tour. Could have been Saudi Arabia. But it was very interesting because that was a whirlwind tour. And this is when all of this was going down. Then he says, do you remember then months after that, the new republic with the original constitution was invoked on July 4th, 2020, when Donald Trump visited Mount Rushmore. It's kind of eerie, isn't it?
It's so, I mean, this is the thing. If you're not paying attention to this stuff, all this stuff just goes over people's heads. Like people aren't paying attention, and I get it. But when you are looking for these things and they start coming together, the pieces start coming together, I get excited because I'm like, I'm not wrong. I know. Yeah. I mean, like,
we know what it means too. We know what this means for the future.
Yes. So I'm going to share my screen that has, and I'll just play the part where she talks about the gold.
Cool.
But let me get that up and hopefully you can see it.
Play it, sister.
I'm going to play that sucker. And
broke protocol and walked in front of the Queen. No, if you go back and look at it, you will see he looked at her. She gave a wave with her hand. He proceeded. She took a couple of steps, he stopped, and he waited for her to join. That was an optic to tell us that he then was going to bankrupt the U.S. corporation, because it was the Vatican, the Crown, and the U.S. that was part since 1871. And we were giving you our tax dollars. We were paying back. Forget this Tea Party and without taxation, without representation. We owed you a lot of money because you helped us in the Civil War. And so that is what Trump has now, he told the Queen, I'm ending this. We're dissolving this corporation. We're going to go back to being a republic and we'll all be separate. The Pope wasn't happy. You should find the picture of him visiting the Pope. It took 650 planes to remove our gold from the Vatican Bank.
I'm not very happy about it, Jan, to be perfectly honest. We could do with your money at the minute. Keep it flowing, I say. Jan Halper-Hayes, really good to in the studio. Good to see you, as always.
Good to see you.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is when I saw that, when I was reading his post and I started looking all this stuff up, and then I was like, oh yeah, I remember the Jan Halper-Hayes saying that. And then, so then I started thinking, so if he did this in 2020, okay, give the notice, right? And according to what I just read earlier at the beginning of the show, where it's 2 years. So does that mean as of like May or June of 2022, right? What is it? That we've been a republic, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm speculating. I would love to hear others' opinion on this, but I mean, it makes sense to me that's a very possible thing. And what helped me feel more confident is the fact that I did look up what the 1871 corp was when I was trying to reconcile Ariel's post by him saying it was dissolved on May 4th, 2020. And I'm like, well, where is it? I can't find it anywhere. When you just type that in, it doesn't show you that. But then as I started looking at what that was, and I got these like contract things, which I did post to this space. So you guys should be able to find that link, the treaty between the United States, and then find the little area where it says you have to give 2 years notice after. So basically they were just letting this go after the 10 years was up. It was only supposed to be 10 years. And then, hey, it's going to go on forever until one of us says, we don't want to do this anymore. Well, they're not going to say they don't want to do it anymore. Right. But DT went and said, guess what, Queenie? I don't want to do it no more. And
That's right. Yeah.
I
think
that's a wrap,
if you follow the state national movement, this is what they talk about, is that we were formed in the corporation shortly after the Civil War. We had to borrow money. We borrowed from the Vatican, from the from England, which we were trying to separate from, and it's just, and we've been indebted to them all of this time.
They trapped us. And you know what?
Yes.
If you really start looking at like the reasons for wars, the bankers' wars and whatever, and you think like just like they tricked the people now into giving money for all the different wars, they tricked people into it thinking that it's for a different cause. And then, we've got to borrow all this money. And look what they did, and I mean, the unsuspecting public falls for it.
Well, Melissa, we got to go on here because, we still haven't talked about Israel. And this is very interesting. The Balfour Declaration. The question is, do you remember the Balfour Declaration?
I pulled it up too, but
I
had no idea what it was.
Do you want me to read this little snippet?
I would love you to.
Okay. It says, Palestine was under UK rule on the 2nd of November, 1917, when Foreign Minister Arthur Balfour wrote to Lord Rothschild, a leader of the British Jewish community. Palestinians made up 90% of the population in 1917. They blamed the declaration for encouraging Zionists and ultimately handing their land to the Jewish homeland, the future Israel, by 1947. Wow. Remember, the state of Israel was created by Khazarians. Now, remember, Cliff High talks quite a bit about Khazarian.
I had never heard of the Khazarians until a few years ago, when I started looking into the Q thing. And then they did the Kekistan and the Kek and, all this kind of stuff, but very interesting.
As a result of the executive orders, Israel, became bankrupt. And what happens as a result? War, which is going on between Israel and Palestine, correct?
Yep.
For what? Land acquisition? Why? Because the Khazarians were kicked out of Ukraine by Vladimir Putin. The assets of ex-president of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, were frozen. It cut off a lifeline of drug, arms, and human trafficking money essential to the survival of Washington. Why are we sending so much money to Ukraine?
Good question.
Do you see how this connects to the current conflict? Question mark. The Khazarian mafia money laundering base is in Ukraine. The last country that the Khazarian mafia has is Israel. Remember who established Israel? The Rothschilds. Donald Trump is the first leader to have broken that control and removed them from power in the United States, or the USA, by taking control of the Fed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is why
that's when he turned it over to the Treasury, back to the Treasury.
Right. Remember that monumental moment with when Mnuchin, he signed that the order moving the Fed into the Treasury, and those two just looked as giddy as could be.
Mm-hmm.
This is why the attacks on Donald Trump are so vicious and relentless, and they come from all sides: political, media, military, sports, etc., because they're all implicated. They're all affected by this.
Yep.
Let's see. There's more here. Did you
Yeah, he says
wanna bring up-
since the reason is since the USA was always the Rothschilds' strongest territory to control the rest of the world with its powerful army, these global criminals have pulled out all the stops to overturn a duly elected president. They've activated and unleashed all their assets to achieve this. And then now he gets into even more conspiracy. But so that's what I've always said is US has been kind of used as a weapon against the world, really. These people, I speculate, have used it as a weapon. But Ariel says, remember the Q drop, all assets deployed. And he says, D. Trump is the only world leader who has defeated the Rothschilds by hijacking their central bank in the USA. This happened quietly during March of 2020 and without any media coverage because the media is owned by the same Rothschilds banking empire. The Federal Reserve is now under the US Treasury, which is why the printing press no longer pumps out endless fiat USD, which was used to suppress the Middle East throughout the petrodollar or through the petrodollar. And Iraq by January 1st, 2024 will no longer use the USD in everyday commerce unless you're a traveler who needs it for international flights. So let's
haven't we
unpack
been
that for a
hearing
second.
haven't we been hearing about Iraq going into the BRICS? Was it Iraq wanting to become part of BRICS? I know Iran definitely.
I believe they do, yeah.
But they will be using their own currency.
Yeah. And
this is very interesting.
And so then he says, I told you all, the first domino has not fallen yet publicly.
Yeah.
A month ago, Mike Johnson, now Speaker of the House, stated that Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, that the sole power of impeachment belongs to the Republican House of Representatives. And Article 2, Section 4 states, quote, the president shall be removed from office on impeachment and for conviction of the following: treason, bribery, money laundering, misdemeanor, or other high crimes. Americans now know from investigations launched by the House committee that through domestic and international business dealings ran illegally that J. Biden administration is now liable for, quote, crimes against humanity, end quote. That is, I mean, so even him saying that and it's still staying up on X.
Yeah.
Please, YouTube, we're speculating here. We're reading someone's post. This is for educational purposes only. Please do your own research, critical thinking. If any of you have comments or would like to come up, please raise your hand and we'll bring you up. Thank you.
If not, we've got more here.
Oh, so much more. This is just we're not even going to get through this whole thing. There's
we're
no
going to try. Says, do you see how they were setting the scene for the general public who have no clue of the DoD Law of War Manual or the continuation of government, the COJ or JAG, or even the Brunson case? Because as I said the other day, everything that is happening publicly is a result of what already happened privately. That's huge. Do you all find it peculiar that after Clarence Thomas accepted the 11th Circuit emergency writ for the 2020-2022 election fraud case 24 hours before the new Speaker of the House was chosen? Timing.
See, he's smart. Ariel's got it put together.
So we're in a transition period away from the 1871 Corporation Act. Removing J. Biden is basically removing the U.S. from Khazarian Rothschild control of our country. The DoD, Department of Defense, has already established a presidential transition order that became effective on February 3rd, 2023. People seem to have forgotten about the GGMF, which is the gold Global Gold Mutual Fund, who are creating a gold standard for the Philippines with invitations for other countries to come on board by January the 20th, 2024.
I need to
Who
look
is-
that up because I'm
Yes.
not familiar with that, but that sounds mighty interesting.
Who is supposed to have an international currency backed by gold by January 1st?
Iraq.
Iraq.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's so gross. I hate to whisper like that because it just gives me the creeps.
It's like Joe Biden or whatever. And can we pause for 1 second? And
Absolutely.
I would like, I'm not sure. I was initially really excited about this Mike Johnson being the Speaker of the House. But now I'm just confused. So I just want to say, for the record, I'm just observing. And let's just see if he's not somebody that's been in politics for a long time. And the way I saw him on it was some other kind of hearing, or they were approving a bill or something. And it was very interesting, the reception that he got from the fellow members of Congress, and how, they were razzing him. It was almost like in the thing that I was watching, and I tried my hardest to find what it was, but I haven't been able to find it because I watched so many of those hearings and bills and all this stuff. But they were actually like teasing him and saying, kind of like what a ball buster he was, and but saying it in a cheeky way. And then when I saw the vote, and then I saw his acceptance speech, and they were all behaving the same way, and I'm like, they really respect and like this guy like I haven't seen any in a very long time. And but then I started seeing people say bad things about him too, and that he's supporting in the war in Israel and all this kind of stuff. So I'm like, okay, this is all very confusing. But one thing I do know is that he is playing a role. It's his time to play this role, and what that role is, I'm not exactly sure. But I don't know. We're in for more interesting times. I just wonder what anybody else thinks about that.
I heard about some of that. And what I also heard was that when the request for funding came up for Ukraine and Israel, what came out in the media was he supports funding Ukraine. Well, as things went along, what he did is when it came about to his committee, he separated the two. We will take these issues up separately, separate bills, which is really what the caucus wanted. That was some of their problems with McCarthy, is that he was not willing to separate these things out. This is what our members wanted. He did that. So how much is Ukraine going to get? Maybe they're going to get a big goose egg.
Yeah.
Maybe there will be conditions on their funding. Israel is going to get, it's going to be a different package for both of them. They're separate.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up for me, because it gave me pause, and I'm like, again, try not to get too excited over any politician, because I trust none of them.
He also
Boomer's with me on that one.
He also believes that there was election interference. He's a staunch supporter of Donald Trump. He is completely behind the notion there was problems with the election. And I'm probably going on a stretch, but you guys will have to double check me on this. But I believe that he was one of the House members that wanted to take a pause and not certify the electors.
Yeah, you are correct on that. You are correct on that. I do know that to be true. So yeah, it's very
I think we may have, he's not polished and practiced like McCarthy. I mean,
I don't
I've
like
seen McCarthy.
I don't like polished, and I don't like that.
I saw McCarthy when he was just a little babe starting, in the House of Representatives, and I've seen just the change in his hair, his mannerisms. You could tell he's practiced for this role for many, many, many years. He could taste He could taste the Speaker of the House position, but why did he not relinquish his office to
Yeah.
Pelosi?
Yeah.
But you know what? When our new speaker came in,
Yeah.
out of here. You
Yeah.
are
Bye, Felicia.
evicted.
Get out.
Yep. You're not getting some 60-day notice. You
Bye.
security,
You
get the
shouldn't even be in
boxes,
here.
take her out of here.
Shouldn't even be on the stage.
And get the sage and clean that office.
Ay, ay. And this is, and you know what? This is not a Democrat Republican thing. I just think
No, it's not. It's a good versus evil.
if I pegged you as being a bad dude, you're a bad dude. I don't care what you label yourself. If you do things that are not in the benefit and with the goodness of the American people in your mind and heart, then I don't want you serving anything. I want them out. I want them all out. I want fresh.
Think about Cliff High talking about the Khazarian mafia, and he says this is a long bloodline, like the Rothschilds, like any of the other bloodlines. This is, and I'm going to talk about what was said in our church. It's like, hey, and it's just like you just said, it's not a Republican Democrat thing. This is a long time battle that has been going on between good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the target is Israel. You get rid of Israel or you try to take them down, and guess who else they're going to come after next?
Mm-hmm.
It will be the Christians.
Yeah.
Yes. I'd love to have some feedback on that from somebody's out there in space audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please comment. John,
yeah.
Simon,
Raise your hand.
You're there.
Yeah,
definitely.
I
mean, this is some serious stuff, and Cliff High, he doesn't hold back on these guys at all. I mean, the Khazarian mafia thing, you go look that up under Cliff High, and he's got a lot of material out on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some things when I first heard about him, go, wow, that's way out there. But now you have Ariel's talking about it. I mean, this is coming up all over the place. I just don't think it's, some one person going out there on some sort of trip. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just think that, this is not, as far as it not being the Democrat versus Republican, I'm so sick and tired of that. I'm so over it. I don't, it's another way to divide us, and it just shuts people down. And leaves them, it puts people in a box, and I don't want to be put in a box. I'm not. Anybody that knows me, yes, I do have conservative thoughts. But I'm not complete like square, I mean, there's a lot of things that I might be a little bit more liberal or eccentric with or whatever. And it's offensive for someone to label me in a certain way. But if somebody does something good for the people, I'm going to support them no matter who they are, but we have to be mindful of who they're connected with, as we're learning from this post. Simon, I see you came on to be a speaker. If you can unmute yourself.
Greetings.
Greetings.
What's happening? I'm enjoying the conversation.
Great.
Glad
you're here.
You have anything that you want to talk to add to our last little blurb before we carry on?
Oh no, go ahead and carry on. It's going well. I am semi multitasking, so I've been listening the whole time here.
Perfect.
Getting ready to try to come on, trying to drop some comments in this space chat wherever that's at. It's all good. So, but I'm listening. Go ahead. Continue.
All right, thank you.
Well, let's go on with bringing the BRICS nations.
I think I'm gonna share my screen. while you kind of are reading over it, just so
Okay.
the folks on YouTube can maybe see it a little bit. So
Okay.
as you start reading it, I'll share.
right.
I'll share. So carry on.
All right. So who are the BRICS waiting for to reinstate their currency on the Forex market? Iraq. America has billions in IQD, which is Iraqi dollars, which once the IQD rate is released on the international trade markets, will liquidate countries around the world who will overnight have trillions worth of IQD once it's converted into their domestic national currency, which will help build their new republic. For those who have been asking why the IQD is so important, this will usher in the golden age for next century and beyond, which is why last week Kevin McCarthy mentioned for the first time publicly that we're under a continuity of government.
Yes, he sure did. Didn't he say that?
Yes.
I started to share, but I realized that I wasn't at the spot where you were reading. So I have to
That's okay.
find the spot again.
Should I just continue on here?
Yeah, but where in the spot are you?
I'm down where right under, if you find who are the BRICS waiting for, I'm heading right into the next paragraph.
All right, I will find that. Continue. Sorry.
So the military was found at first in our nation, which means they are over every other branch of government, including the president. The United States, and that may not be an exact, accurate statement, but I get the gist of what he's saying here. The United States Supreme Court, first time in history, clarified this in the Military Justice Act of 2016. So that might be something to put in your search criteria. And we'll get to this in just a moment. Keep it right there. All right. Though it didn't pass until they went under the continuity of government in the 2017 National Defense Authorization Act. So here we are. We're all caught up. We're in the same place.
Awesome.
The Military Justice Act clarifies three things. Military law supersedes civilian. President and Commander-in-Chief are separate. Article 2 of the Constitution, Commander-in-Chief, is separate from Article 3 of the federal government. Our founders established a military first, the Army, Navy, and Marines long before the Declaration of Independence, Articles of Confederation, Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. We have been in a peaceful transition of power since 2020. This is what Donald Trump meant when he stated that he put the government on pause. All of this is under transition now, with gold no longer being suppressed and over 200 countries dumping the USD. We are now ready for the initiation of the new republic. Do you remember when the razor wire lined fence that had drawn a circle around the Capitol, Supreme Court, and federal office buildings? This was the U.S. military deeming it foreign occupied territory since it was under the District of Columbia.
I remember that.
I
That
do
was
too.
incredible. This segment right here that you just read explains a lot. If once you see it, you can't not see it. But carry on. That's I love it.
So that municipal government is a plenary oligarchy run by the members of Congress, and it conveniently fails to say which Congress. There are 4 Congresses available or possible. First, there's the Continental Congress, which is a Congress of our states, attended by state deputies. Second, there's the Congress of the Federal Republic, which is supposed to be operated by our long-defunct Confederation of States of States. Third, there's the U.S. Congress, composed of representatives from the foreign-born territorial state-of-state organizations that have been illegally and immorally commandeering our actual American government since the 1860s, And fourth, there's the municipal U.S. Congress composed of franchise operators of the municipal United States, the aforementioned municipal plenary oligarchy, which is what I believe the state nationals have been talking about for a long time.
I think you're right.
Since
They have been.
Yes, they have. They've been pointing this out. Since the municipality of Washington, D.C. is an independent international city-state squatting on our shores, and its government is a plenary oligarchy run by the members of some unidentified Congress, we were left with a gang of international criminals operating pirate base on our East Coast. This is coming to an end. Because of what is coming up on October 31st, which is Tuesday, Halloween, the expiration of the State of Israel. Remember, if the Rothschilds control both the Federal Reserve and Israel, and both are bankrupt, where does that leave U.S. congressional members who have dual citizenship? They're powerless.
They're SOL.
Yeah. Do you think the new Speaker of the House knows this? Absolutely. Why do you think he announced that he is putting a bill together for Israel instead of a budget? I told you the difference between the two yesterday. This is what Ariel said. The new government program will not be for the current status of Israeli government. The parliament has already resigned. So what's next?
Maybe that is what when Mike Johnson was talking about, the funding of this is a different thing than what we thought, right?
Exactly. I'm going to let you scroll through this, but I'm going to jump to the next one, where it says Mike Johnson and Donald Trump are basically the same person. Remember when Donald Trump stated last month that we can take our country back before the primaries? 25 plus states already have bills prepared to return to the gold standard. We have nothing to worry about because everything is officially in writing. You heard it from Kevin McCarthy. You heard it from Mike Johnson. You heard it from Jan Halper. You heard it from Donald Trump. You heard it from the military. What more confirmation do you need?
Man, huh?
This is also huge. I mean, it gets into the banks closing due to the fact that they're not Basel III compliant.
Oh, man. This is so big, you guys.
These are the only banks where people have difficulty accessing their funds. Thanks to the Dodd-Frank Act, it basically made it legal for banks to confiscate your money without any explanation as to why your money's missing hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is why it's important to ask certain questions before you open any new account with any new bank. And I would just suggest go to a credit union.
Right. Wow.
So are they Basel III compliant? Are they ISO 20022 compliant? And are they Protocol 20 compliant? And so stay tuned for more. And that pretty much is the end of his post. I think there is just so much in there.
There is.
I'm looking forward to his next edition.
Yes. I mean, wow. What do you guys think about that? So, I mean, when you look at all of the things that are going on, I mean, that the very end of his post is really quite telling.
Yes.
And again, if you have been giving this your attention, all the pieces, all the puzzle pieces that have been left for us over this many years now, are all coming together. And what an amazing time we're living in right now. I mean, I think I just, you couple that with all of the other things that are going on, the criminals, right, that have been intertwined with all of this, and they're either dying off, they've resigned. I mean, right when Donald Trump first took office, I mean, think about, I was keeping track at one time of all of the representatives, Congress people that were leaving office, not seeking reelection, or they got voted out. And then you got a bunch of these new people, and some are, pretty sensationalized, and, some of them are provocateurs in their own right, stirring the pot. Who knows what side they were on? But I've just always found it fascinating, the people that Donald Trump kind of put a spotlight on. You know, they're a really good guy. They're a good person. It's like, it seems like every time that he's given somebody a great pat on the back, something bad's gonna happen. Like when he's endorsing them, it might not be what you think it is. So yeah, just wild stuff here. What else? What else do you think, Christy?
Well, I think about you know, other conversations that we have, you know, on a radio show that I do is on talking about Bitcoin. These topics cross over in that space as well. It's like how we all got together, how we know each other over the last several years is because Bitcoin brought us together, and it opened up these rabbit holes for exploration.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
one thing I
gotten
will
us
say.
here.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is that, you know, I did enter the cryptocurrency space, looking into Bitcoin, and then as soon as I got on that rabbit hole, it was the what is money and how does money work, and really started diving into that. And then of course, like, you know, watching the politics of it all and looking up the different companies that are oh so powerful, and you know, then just diving into history, hidden history, and all of these things that have been put in place to continuously keep us uninformed, completely uninformed. And it's just sickening to me how well it worked. But it's also extremely exciting to me to see how many people of all ages, of all backgrounds, that are coming together and questioning these things. And it's incredibly helpful to have someone like this Ariel that is able to put together a thread of all of these clues and things, and provide something for somebody to get a running start off of and start looking into them, you know, for themselves. So
There's something that just a thought bubbled. There was somebody else that came on the scene, made a major splash, did their job, and is gone. Ariel came on in 2022, just a little over a year ago. We know somebody else with the Space Force that came on and had been in the space for about a year and a half, and poof, gone now. Very open about what his mission was. He went to MIT on assignment by their United States military, on a mission to learn about that technology, that currency, possibly a national defense mechanism, something that requires national defense. I think it's really interesting that the United States as a country has more Bitcoin than any other country. This isn't a Bitcoin conversation, but it's interesting how, being in that world, that we're now talking about this in this space here on Beyond the Brink, because of how many lives and how many governments and all of these things that are centered around these power structures, and how we had one man who I think was tasked with this job.
Are you going to clue the people in who you're talking about?
Donald Trump.
Oh, you're talking about Donald Trump.
Why come out? Why have a great life as he did? I think by no surprise, he came in here. He was asked to do the job. He was the one who could do the job. I think he had been prepared for it for probably most of his life. To come and take out 17 competitors, it's like watching him on the debate stages. It was just incredible.
Was it 17? Was it 17?
It was 17. I think 17, including himself. Okay.
There's that number again. It's always 17.
It's just like one after another. And it's just, you know, your
Mhm.
hands, Lindsey Graham. I mean, and the cell phone thing, giving out the cell phone. I mean, how do you get away with all of that, right?
Right.
Little Marco and Sleepy Jed and all of the names. And
Yeah.
these are people who have been in politics for a number of years and some businessman, which thank goodness we had a businessman
Mhm.
run our country, which is what
And-
we needed. But it was
and
more
it-
than that, way more than that.
Oh, Simon, you got something?
I do. I would actually, I'd like to touch on the businessman part.
Yeah.
And this will actually go back to what Ariel has mentioned, or in his post, he talks about how there is two different hats that the elected president of the United States. There's the president, that chair, right? That seat. But
Mhm.
there's
Right.
also the commander in chief.
Right.
Those are
Mhm.
two different hats, two different seats. And so when you hear the word president, nobody ever actually thinks of president as in the president / CEO
Mm,
of a company.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So if you really think about business, that's literally what our country is. Like
Yes.
all countries, we trade back
Yes.
and forth. It's all business. So yes, you really need a businessman or woman or business like-minded individuals to be at the helm, because that's what we're literally doing. We're dealing with contracts. A treaty is a contract. You
Yes.
need those people that understand business. So yeah,
Who's
definitely a businessman.
great point, Simon. So who is a master of reorganizing his contracts?
Donald Trump.
There's
I mean,
one. I know there's a
yeah.
great many.
Yes, there are, but he is known publicly for a number of bankruptcies, right? But yet, I don't think he's got the nickname Teflon Don for because he's slick or anything like that. He's smart and he uses the law. So if there's a and he knows contracts, he knows business, and he uses everything to get the best deal, right? Look at
And
what
I
he
would
did with
just
his
say-
casinos, he's done with his hotels. Hey, I can go ahead and reorganize my company. That's something that's normally done in business. Now, if a person went ahead and used bankruptcy, were excoriated. Oh, you bad person! You filed bankruptcy. You just ruined your credit and all that. FTX, for instance, is coming out of bankruptcy. They're funding up their company and they're ready to rock and roll after what Sam Bankman-Fried did.
Mm.
No harm, no foul. They're just reorganized.
Weird.
Well,
Yeah.
I will say that I believe that there's an incredible team behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
There always is in every administration. But I would say that Donald Trump probably has the best group of people behind him that are working in the shadows, and that this plan has been laid out for a long time, and he is the face of it. Getting back to the Bitcoin comment, and there's so many things that are changing now, and I listened to a space the other day on Bitcoin and triple entry accounting, triple ledger accounting, and AI. And there was a couple of experts on there talking, and then thinking about Jason Lowry, and I thought that's who you were going to say when you were talking about the Bitcoin thing, that he was tasked with putting his paper out there, his thesis out there on Bitcoin. But the introduction to the world of Bitcoin and the triple ledger accounting, it's a big deal. While I don't think that Bitcoin's, going to be the world currency where we're going to be trading it back and forth for payments and all that kind of stuff, the immutable ledger part of that and couple that with smart contracts and this triple ledger accounting, where these entries are going to be recorded for all to see. There's a lot of changes that are coming, and I think that's a major part of what's happening. And then you have XRP, Ripple, and XRP, that fake lawsuit, them coming after them, trying to, hold them back. And they too have went around the world and have quite the partnerships.
Yes.
And then I think back to, the Q days, looking at the boards and thinking, all the clues that were left out there, and the watch the water, that's Ripple to me. Orange man bad. They labeled Donald Trump, and what color do they have Bitcoin is orange, and he's anti-Bitcoin, but is he really? Giving the little hints with Melania creating EFTs and things like that, all point towards those things are being laid in the background. Those
You
of
mean
us
NFTs, right?
NFTs and just even the payments structure that's changing. The Fed getting turned over to the Treasury, and all of this kind of stuff going on, it is a big deal. And then you have these companies that they're ready to take the bull by the horns, right? You've got Ripple ready to provide instant liquidity. You've got the Bitcoin ledger and that sort of thing with the immutable ledger. And I could see that being used for maybe, I don't know, who knows, like in order to not have transactions being hidden like these oligarchs have done whenever money has gone for aid of some sort to another country. This technology is going to allow that to be seen and for things to go towards what they're supposed to go towards, and we'll be able to see it. In theory, we'll be able to see it. But I see so much promise. And the biggest thing I think that we all need to do is to continue to be vigilant in looking for information and cross-referencing that information, educate ourselves the best we can, and share that with people when they're ready to take it in, I guess. But
one company we have to add in here too is being ready for this. Why is BlackRock up on deck? They just sent a check to the SEC to clear the deck. They're not admitting any wrongdoing or anything like that, but the SEC had fined them about some gambling concerns, and not within the company, but some within the companies I think that they have some interest in.
mm-hmm.
That deck is cleared. And with that cleared, BlackRock is there to bring in monies now into exchange traded funds for they're one of the world's largest asset holders, right? They've got pension plans, IRAs that are under their management. They have their customers who want to have interest in Bitcoin. And I'm sure that they're going to be getting in to XRP, the ISO 20022 compliant coins. No doubt in my mind. They want an ETF play big time.
Yeah.
And it's coming. I think it might be as early as sometime next week. Early part of November. They're already listed on the exchange. They're just not trading. It's ready to go.
It's going to be an interesting November.
Oh, yes, it is. I think even an interesting Halloween.
I know. I'm like, the expiration of the state of Israel on October 31st. I didn't really understand that. I didn't know that.
Well, we'll see. I don't think
There's
they're
so many
gonna put it.
dates thrown out here. You know what I mean? There's so many dates thrown out. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. I get them all confused. And I mean, I am somebody that researches and like all the time. I don't watch television. I might watch a movie if somebody recommends it to me, but I'm mostly my brain is researching things all the time. Even when I'm doing something else, I'm just constantly reading, and that's just how I am. But I could only imagine that like the people that aren't giving this any attention at all, this is all just going completely over them. They're just not, they don't see any of it. What
Well,
they see is that their favorite friend died today or yesterday or whatever. That's what they're all posting on, my Facebook family. It's like everybody's like, oh, Matthew Perry,
well, isn't
and
that
I'm like, but have you seen what he posted on his Instagram with the Batman and the 3 cranberries? What's up with that? That's what I'm
he
reading.
was on a list. He was on a
What?
list.
He's on, and Ariel has another thread, and I'm telling you guys, you got to look at this Ariel guy. He dropped it. He dropped the names. He's
Yes, he
dropping
did.
names of
It's a
people that
spreadsheet.
they were, this whole Epstein Island thing. People think it's
Yes.
like, oh, not a big deal, but unfortunately, a lot of these folks did some pretty shitty things and bad things, and things you can't take back. And it's unfortunate if somebody was a good person and they got pulled into something that they shouldn't have done. They still have to pay for doing that. Crimes against
Yeah.
humanity. And so I'm just like,
Oh, well, that was a drowning. So when I first saw the headline, I'm going, oh, was he surfing or something? No, he was in his hot tub. So did he have a suddenly an unexpected incident?
no, did you see? So apparently he posted on his Instagram. He was posting weird stuff the night before he died on Instagram. My friend sent it to me to my phone, so otherwise I'd share it. He was posting like the bat signal, and he called himself Matman instead of Batman. And then he posted a little video of him putting 3 cranberries on the table. And then somebody thought to look up the cranberries. The gal from the cranberries died from drowning. And so they were like, was he leaving a hint, that he was going to pass from drowning? So I'm like, drowning. It's not drowning. Drowning.
Wow.
He drowned in his hot tub. And then he said something like, don't worry, I'm on a tall building or something. And so I don't know. It's all really weird, but
Sounds like he was tripping on something.
yeah, I mean, maybe, yeah. I don't know what you think. He was smoking.
He had some ganja going on.
I'd like to. Okay, this is no information. This is me just spitting fire from the seat of my pants here. Okay, so you talk about the bat signal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of a big thing. If the bat signal goes up, that's a call for an emergency.
Right. Help
Yep.
me.
Okay, that means well, maybe help me. I don't know about help me. That's a hey, stuff's hit the fan. Right? When the bat signal goes up, the stuff's hit the fan. Every movie, bat signal goes up, it's hit the fan, or it's go time. Right? It's go time.
Oh.
Right? So just gonna throw that out there. Also, speaking like he does, most good actors can maintain their speak through it if they're high
Right.
or drunk. Even they actually do pretty good. That's what they do on the sets
Right.
of
True.
some of their shows and all that stuff. But yeah, it's really interesting. The timing of it all. But when I saw that come across some of my feeds on social media, I was like, yeah, not likely. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that at all. To be revealed at a later date, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's not what everybody is saying it is. But it is very interesting to take a step back to, as you said, Melissa, to the people that are talking about Matthew Perry and oh my gosh, what happened, versus those of us with a different perspective and a different view of information, rather just information. If these people had the same information and we're having light conversations like what you both ladies are presenting to us today,
Yeah.
they would probably see a few things. Example, one might be going, maybe I should take a small piece of money, real small, and maybe I should go out and go get me some of those Bitcoins, Satoshis, by the way, and maybe I should get a couple Iraqi dinars and see where that takes me later in life.
Yes.
Or maybe I should buy myself a little XRP.
You know, it's just I had a
Do that
note
too.
here. Maybe
I love
some
that.
XRP. Yeah, right there.
I do love a Neapolitan ice cream. It just tastes damn good.
Huh? Goodness comes in threes.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Well, we got a couple minutes here left, about 6 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. 5 or 6 minutes. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. And this is just for those of you who might be interested. The Friends thing. Look up Rachel Chandler. And there's a post that Ariel has on that he addresses that too. But Rachel Chandler is also someone connected with Epstein and apparently had some. She was a kind of like a Giselle, where she's getting people for other people. Let's put it that way. Look into it. Can't go into too much because we are live streaming on YouTube, but it's very interesting that a lot of these names that they use in the television shows, like the Friends shows, just so happens to be the name put together of somebody who is said to have done some bad things. And the way the internet works is the most searched items get put to the top when you're searching, like in Google. And so you're not going to accidentally stumble upon that because you're going to see a bunch of Rachel and Chandler on Friends, right? And so what an interesting, I don't know, turn of events that are going on right now.
Yes.
Can I comment to your friends thing there?
I'll be there for you.
So for those of you that watched Friends or had to watch Friends, in the opening credits, right? There's the word friends, but there's little dots in between each thing, each letter, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, making it an acronym. I'd be curious to what that acronym really means.
I'd be curious too. You'll have to come back on and let us know what you find out.
Oh man, I'm not going that rabbit hole. I'm gonna leave let somebody else do it on Spaces or YouTube. Come back to us, email us, or email broadcasting. They want to know.
I'm looking. I'm going to see if I can find this.
Yeah, do it. Full send right now, Christy. I know you could do it.
No, seriously though, there's so many things that they names, duplicate names of things. You'll find even like earlier on when Trump was when he was in office and there was all the different controversies and you had Barr and I can't think of a lot of the names that of like say a prosecutor or the DOJ or whatever, they have duplicate names. So like you have Barr in the whole what do I want to say, in the cryptocurrency space, or what is he is it not William, it's Michael Barr is the I'm brain farting right now. I apologize, you guys. He's the counterpart to the SEC, the other the commodities chair or whatever, right? Thank you, Boomer. I'm just trying to say there's a Horowitz and a Horowitz, and there's a Huber and a Huber, and there's all these people's names, and it's like, what are the odds that they would have the same last names? This many people have the same last names in a short amount of time and be in places in positions of power for all these different controversies going on. If you start looking, you'll see a tremendous amount of similarities or duplicates. And I don't exactly know what it means other than if I apply it towards the Rachel Chandler thing, where you're looking on the internet and you come up with friends. If you try to type in Rachel Chandler, you're going to come up with a bunch of friend stuff. So if you're trying to do any research on a certain thing and you're looking up, Michael Barr or whatever, you might not exactly find the stuff that you're looking for. Did you find it, Christy?
This friends is actually an acronym for the name of the characters.
Oh, really?
So I didn't watch Friends, so I'm not familiar with all of their characters' names.
Well,
So
Rachel.
interesting. That wasn't an easy find. I had to go through the Reddit threads to find them.
Yeah.
Evidently somebody had some time to spend on that. So there you go.
So interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, my friends, I think this was wonderful. I appreciate all of you that stayed, and even though Melissa was silly and started it a half hour earlier than she was supposed to, actually an hour earlier than I was supposed to, but Christy was able to come on a half hour earlier than she intended.
Melissa, she texted me, she goes, "Are you coming?"
I'm like, where are you?
I go,
I'm starting the
"Whoa."
space.
I just got home 15 minutes ago.
I'm like, I'm in the car.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Huh? I just got home, girlfriend. I ain't going on no Zoom yet. But you know what, Simon? I taught myself how to play music while people were waiting. A couple of people, Boomer and John, came in the space, and I was playing music and they could hear it, and I just muted my mic.
Perfect.
So it worked out. So
Nice.
We're learning something new every day. But
Dang right we do. Sometimes more than we want to learn.
All right, you want to take us out, Chrissy?
Well, you bet. Well, it was great to see all of you on YouTube and to be with you here in Spaces.
Yeah.
So until next time, I want to thank all of you for being here. Simon, once again, for jumping up in the speaker spot and joining us on Spaces. John Gibson, I know that you're out there, and thank you for being here.
John.
Yes, and everybody else out there that I don't
Boomer,
know.
my friend Rosemary.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if
you
you can
being here.
Yes, my wonderful friends.
Yes.
If you guys would, if you haven't already, if you would retweet out this, that would be awesome, and share it. That would be fantastic. It would help our channel grow. And until next time, we will talk to you all later, and we hope you have a great day.
Have a Brink-worthy week.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. See you next time. Bye-bye.